Hello YouTube, welcome back to TekkinLife.
And today we're going to be doing part 2 of making a calculator on Xcode. So the first step is going to be to change this false on operation used to true. This was a mistake made from before. And next we're going to be adding in our operations. And this is going to be in the same IBAction type of function. Okay, our first step will be to attach our operations. Since this episode will be on making the operations of the calculator. Specifically, we'll be doing the addition operation. So first, we're going to control click, and we're going to drag over and insert it. Not over here, so it doesn't connect. We're going to do it somewhere under here. And we'll name it operations. Open up some space so we can add our work here. Okay, so I'm just gonna make some comments for every single operation and button that will be connected to this, so we have a different section for each. Okay, so that's our 6 buttons that will need to be connected to it. Right now we just have addition, so let's just go ahead and connect the rest. Now as we can see, we can hover over this little button here, and we can see that all 6 of them are connected. So next we're going to be going into this function, and our first step will be to declare a constant known as tag, and this is going to be needed to store the tag of whatever's clicked. So we're going to use sender, which is a term that will refer to whatever button is clicked, as UI button, since these are all UI buttons, dot tag, and this dot tag will access its tag property. Now, as we mentioned in the last video, on every single operation we have a different tag, and these tags are used as a reference in our code to refer to the actual button. So we'll just go over each tag right now. Addition has a tag of 11, subtraction has a tag of 12, multiplication has a tag of 13, division has a tag of 14, equal sign has a tag of 15, and the clear button has a tag of 16. So these will all be used in our code to refer to each button, so we know what code should go towards each button and what corresponds with each one. So we'll start by adding this tag constant, and it'll give us this warning saying that we haven't used it yet, but we will be using it in a couple minutes. Next we're going to do an if statement, which will say if tag is equal to 11, and which will be this double and, operation used equals false, then what we want to do is we want to see, now whatever we put in here will be for if we click the addition button, so it will decide what happens when we click this addition button, and also the second part will make more sense after because it's not something we touched on yet, but it will basically be used so that the addition button cannot be clicked on itself again. It'll basically be used so that any operation cannot be clicked by itself again, because that will mess up the calculator. Okay, so next we will say if counter is equal to 0, then we want operation to be equal to tag. Now this means that counter is a variable that we're going to be using to count what try we are on for our operations. So if this is our first operation being clicked, the counter is going to be still at 0, but every single time we click an operation, then that's going to go up. That counter will increment. However, on our first time of clicking it, it will obviously be 0, and what we want it to do a specific task only when it's at 0. And we want this operation variable, which we declared a while ago, which is right now 0, we want it to be equal to tag, which would be 11 if it's following this pathway. It might not make sense, but once we progress, it will make more sense. And now, like I said, we need to increment the counter because we only want this if statement that says if the counter is equal to 0, we only want that to go off when it's 0. After that, after the operations have been used multiple times, this small block of code should not activate at all because the counter has incremented and now it's not equal to 0. And now next we're going to say if operation is equal to 11. Operation is going to be a variable that we use to remember the past operation that was used, the one that was used last. So whenever we have multi-operation equations, we want to make sure that it stores the last operation that was used in our line so that we can continuously have an updating result on the screen, because we need to know what was the last one clicked so we can actually use that to display what the right answer is on the screen. So what we're going to do next is we're going to say within this block of code, if operation is equal to 11, current number, which we mentioned before was the variable that's going to be updated on the screen constantly, and that's going to be equal to itself plus int results label dot text. Basically what this is saying is that if the last operation that was clicked was 11, which is referring to addition, then we want current number, which is the number that's stored in this variable, equal to itself plus whatever's on the screen. And then we want the result label dot text, which is the text in the result label, which is right here. We want that to be equal to string current number. Basically this is saying is it's taking this current number and it's just putting it into a string form, which is why we typecast it in, put it into brackets, and that's why we now have it into this label. If it was simply just an integer, it wouldn't be able to be put into a text form. It would just give an error. Now at the bottom in this area, before we allow it to go into the next section, which is to subtract, we're going to put operation used is equal to true, since it was used. And next we're going to say operation is equal to tag. Now this operation variable will store the tag so that when we go to our next operation, it will have this tag stored already, so it can use that to display the right result on the screen. Later when we walk through everything while the code is running, it will make much more sense. And now speaking of this operation used, we'll actually see how this works right now, since we need to make some adjustments to our number pad. Now if we go back to our number pad, we're going to put 2 of these, which displays or, and it will be or operation used, which if you simply just put the word, it basically just says if operation used is true. So what this is saying is that if the result label is 0, or if an operation is used, then we want the result label to equal string tag -1, which means we want it to replace it. Now, of course, when we start our calculator and the number says 0 originally, we want it to replace it. But also, when we use an operation and then we click a number right after that, we want the number to be replaced as well. And after this, since we also need to make sure that once we click our first button, we don't want to continue to keep replacing it, So we need to make sure operation used is now false. So now we say operation used is equal to false. So basically what this will do is that first time if we're talking about just this part, we understand that when the number on the screen is 0, we want to replace it, but we also want to replace it when an operation was just used, because of course we don't want the number to just keep appending on itself. We want to replace after whatever's on the screen. And then once this does happen, we don't want the operation used to continue to be true, since after that a number was already used, so we're still typing our number. Therefore, we're going to say operation used is false, so that doesn't just continue to append onto itself. And this next part we can keep the same. Let's try running this and see how it works. Okay, so here we have our calculator run, and now we will walk through whatever happens on the calculator. So right now we start off with nothing clicked, 0 on our label, and we'll start by clicking any random number. Let's go with 5. Now it goes through this number pad. It sees that the label is 0. There was no operation used, but since this OR is right here, it takes either OR, and even if one statement is true, it will produce true and follow through this. So now operation used is false, and result label.text is now replaced by the number 5 that we clicked. Now if we do 5 plus, I click plus, and it goes through this operations, and it will store the tag of whatever I clicked. So now tag is equal to 11, and now it'll go through here and it'll say if tag is equal to 11, which it is, and operation used is false, and it was made false through this number pad right here. So if these two are true, then it will go through this add part, and then it'll see if counter is equal to 0, operation is equal to tag. Now counter is equal to 0 again means that it's our first time clicking an operation. We haven't clicked anything before, so since that counter is at 0 right now, our counter of the number of times we've clicked any operations, this is our first time, so the counter is still at 0, and that means it will follow this path, and it'll assign the variable operation to tag. The operation is now equal to tag, which means that tag was 11, which means operation is also now 11. And now the counter is incremented by 1, which means now counter is 1, so next time it won't go through this part since it's only when it's 0. Now so we can see if operation is equal to 11, and this is to produce the correct result on the screen whenever we click it. So we know that operation is equal to 11 because we assigned it through here. And now if operation is equal to 11, it goes through here and it says, okay, current number is equal to current number plus result label.text turned into an integer. So what happens is that it takes current number. Right now current number is 0. So it basically says 0 equals 0 plus whatever's on the screen. Now what's on the screen? 5. So it basically says 0 equals 0 plus 5. And over here it says result label.text equals string current number. It means that the text on the result label is going to be the current number, but turned into a string. So current number is now 5, and 5 into a string is just put right here. So now it prints 5 once we click that. And then operation used is true, operation is equal to tag. So operation is equal to tag, which means that operation is still 11, since addition is the only operation we've used in this whole time. So now that we've clicked that, we can go with another number. Maybe we can go with 12. Start by clicking 1, and then now we can go back up here. We can see stores the tag, then it sees if result label is 0 or operation is used. Now operation used is true because we assigned it at the bottom of here. So now it will go through here again, it will make it false, and then the 1 replaces whatever was on the screen before. And now we can probably click 2 to make it 12, And now this time the operation used is already false and the result label is not 0, so it won't go through here. It'll go through this else, and it'll see result label.text pens whatever number we clicked. So now the 2 is added on to make 12. Now this is where the actual addition happens. So if we click the add one more time, we see that it updates to 17, which is 5 plus 12. And that's how a calculator works. So when we click our first number, then we click our operation, we click our second number, we click another operation, that number updates from before. So what happens is that it goes to this operations function, takes the tag, which is again 11, and the tag is 11, and operation used is false because we assigned it here. Therefore, we can go into this block of code, check if counter is 0, but it's not, since last time we incremented it to 1. It didn't go down from there, it's still 1. So it skips over that, it goes to here, it says if operation is equal to 11, which it is, because earlier, in our last time of clicking the button, it assigned operation to tag, which is still 11. So that means that operation is 11, it goes through this block, and it sees is current number, which is currently 5. And what happens is that it takes 5, and it adds it to whatever was on the screen, whatever was, which was 12. And now that I actually clicked it, it already updated and did this, ran through this code already. But at the time, what it did was it took the 5 from the current number, it added it to 12 because that was what was on the screen, and that 12 was first converted into an integer in order to be added. Then after that, they took the result of that, which was 5 plus 12, 17, and then 17 was turned into a string and stored in the result label, which is why we see it here. We can continue trying this, and we can say plus 5, plus 3, plus 6, plus 12, 122, plus 3, plus 65, plus, and we can go on and on. So this is the addition functionality for this calculator. Next time we'll probably be going through subtraction. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Please leave any suggestions in the comments below, and thanks for watching.